It's live.
Here we go. You ready?
Yep.
We're live. 3, 2, 1. Take command from Northwest Stadium with Logan Paulsen. I'm Grant Paulsen, hanging out with you after the Commanders fall by double digits to the Philadelphia Eagles in an NFC East home game. Logan, it's 4-11. Down the stretch they come here with just 2 to play.
Yeah, and I think the thing about this game is I feel like it's a microcosm of the season in a way, right? Because it showed the first half, I thought it showed you everything that this season could be. There were some explosive plays. They ran the football well. They were feisty defensively. They got a turnover on special teams. And then once Marcus Mariota got hurt, I felt like it all kind of started cascading downhill in a negative way. And so it was really encouraging in the first half, but also incredibly frustrating and demoralizing to see it kind of fall apart. And obviously there's no reasonable expectation that you're going to be successful against one of the better defenses in football with your third string quarterback. But again, I wish we could have seen the game finish with Marcus Mariota at the helm.
29-10 final score. The final score was 29-18, but it was 29-10 with a few minutes to go. Garbage time touchdown, 2-point conversion makes it look a little bit better. Nice call, actually. I really liked it on the PI to Burks.
Yeah.
Just give him a shot, throw him a jump ball. He ends up fighting through contact to get a flag. He also had a really nice hands catch earlier in the game as well. I want to talk about him. But let's start with the bigger stories that are going to get a lot of the traction out of this game. Starting with a melee you don't really see very often in a game. It looked honestly like a joint practice fight.
No kidding.
You had 3 ejections. Javon Kinlaw threw a punch. Quan Martin threw a punch. And then Steen, the offensive lineman for the Eagles, all got ejected for throwing fists. They'll go back to the tape and see if more fines or anything comes out of this. Dan Quinn had surmised after the game he didn't think there was just 3 guys probably throwing punches in that melee. What did you make of that? I asked Quinn after the game because he had talked about sticking up for ourselves and defending each other. But it's always interesting to me. Like, coaches can use that to show, oh, we fight. They could say, like, that's embarrassing. I mean, to me, you just gave up 80 yards when the Eagles are trying to run out the clock on a drive and then give up the 2-point conversion. And now we're going to get into a big fist fight. Like, I could just say as a fan, I didn't feel good about that. I felt kind of embarrassed. Where were you on that whole thing?
Yeah, so first off, that touchdown to me is 100% on the offense. I think the defense had been on the field for 20 minutes at that point, and the offense had only possessed the ball for 6 minutes, which is crazy. So as an offensive football player, that's my first immediate thought is we as a team did not support the defense, which makes sense because
hung you out to dry.
Yes,
you're exhausted.
Correct. Yeah, that's just not good team football there. And so then obviously going for 2 when it's a 3-score game already, it seems like they're pouring salt in the wound a little bit. But when I coach high school football, when I was a player, my philosophy and my dad, what he would tell me is that you can't be mad. You have an opportunity to stop them. So stop them. If you can't stop them and they get it, then they won that situation. And so do I understand? I've played with a bunch of guys. I work with guys now who are really frustrated and they think it's something that should be remembered. And I think it should be remembered. I think it should provide fodder for the rivalry moving forward. Kind of like something that when you get in a fight with your brother, you kind of keep that thing over them a little bit, right? This is kind of what that feels like. So use it as motivation. I am glad that the guys kind of fought for each other and went to bat for each other because it shows that this is still important to the roster. But again, my kind of fundamental belief is just, hey, if you don't want it to happen, you are playing the game too. You have every right to stop them in that moment, and they weren't able to. And again, the brawl, the melee, I think that's disappointing to see, and I think it is interesting that Sirianni chose to do that. I would kind of say maybe it's something he's using to kind of spark his team headed into the playoffs, that this is how we play Eagles football. We're the bully. We're the bad guy on the block. But I definitely think this is something that is going to, for better or for worse, fuel the rivalry moving forward. And again, they play this team in 2 weeks.
That's the big point I was going to make is it's not like you wait until next September and it's like a hit by pitch that leads to the benches clearing and we play you in 12 months or something. Like, these teams play in 2 weeks to end the season. Now, the Eagles went back-to-back. They won the division. This was a hats and shirts game for them. So they're in the locker room spraying champagne as we speak. They're not going to be playing a lot of these starters in that game. But I guess if you want to hold that as added motivation, if you're 4-12 going into that game to get win number 5, maybe that could be a thing. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think it could be, but I think it's also if I'm the head coach of this football team, which I'm not, but if I was, I'd be like, hey, we took this team that won the division, in the first half, we went blow for blow, and we showed if we play our brand of football, which we haven't been able to play all year because of injuries and guys out of the lineup, that we can hang with them and we understand what they're trying to do. And so I'm kind of saying, yeah, obviously this last game of the season may or may not be important for the Eagles. Like, let's win this football game, because I think you're always trying to play to win. But also, like, heading into next year, like, that's at the forefront of my mind. If I'm a player, if I'm a key player here on this roster, I'm saying, man, like, we were close. They think they're way better than us. Like, forget these guys, basically is what I'm saying. And like, as a player, you have these weird little, like Michael Jordan self-dialogue. And is it really a thing? Probably not. But is it enough to provide motivation moving forward? I think absolutely. So I'm not going to say you shouldn't use it as motivation, but in this moment, I think, hey, like, if you wanted to stop him, stop him. Is my ultimate thought.
It is worth acknowledging maybe that if there's such a thing as an unwritten rule, like, they violated it, kind of like, and coach to coach, I'm sure that's where Quinn's frustration came from after the game. If you guys didn't hear his press conference, he said, look, I can only say what I would have done. He was referring to the fact that he wouldn't have done that. He said, if that's how they want to get down, basically good for them. We'll see him in 2 weeks. So there was a little bit of a challenge thrown down, I thought, in that way. But to that point, just look at the handshake after the game.
Yeah.
He even acknowledged after the game. He didn't say a word to Sirianni. Sirianni didn't say a word to him. It was very quick handshakes. And then I thought also, if you go back to the very final 90 seconds of the game, Washington was burning timeouts, making the Eagles basically snap the ball and run the football while there was an 11-point game. Now, it almost backfired, I thought, because like Johnny Newton, who ended up being okay, was down hurt for a second. And that's why you don't do that. I thought if there would have been a serious injury there, it would have looked really, really bad, frankly. But I don't know, a small part of me was like, okay, this is Dan Quinn getting back at Sirianni a little bit. So both sides were kind of trying to jab at the other one in a sense.
Yeah, and I think so. I think and again, does it mean anything in the grand scheme of this season to go down and score the touchdown? Probably not. But is it nice to get that done and kind of say, hey, like, we are, like, I think it's good to see the level of competition from the coach, from the players. The fact that they didn't give up, I think, is also something that's really important to note, like, because it's so easy in those moments to be like, no, or the players should be like, no, we're good. And I've been a part of teams that have done that. But watching this, there's no quit on the sideline. There's no quit in the guys on the field. And I think there is some validity and value to that if you're a fan of this team and you're looking forward to the next 2 games, obviously the offseason, the draft, free agency, all those things. Like, this is everyone talks about culture. Like, this is a different type of culture here than I've seen in a long time. And I think it can be a very dangerous weapon moving into next season.
Take command, Logan Paulsen and Grant Paulsen. So at quarterback, Mariota starts. Wasn't ideal. This is a really good defense, by the way. Mariota was 7 of 14 for 95 yards before leaving with an injury. And then when Josh Johnson came in, he just looked like a guy who had not really prepared or had a chance to prepare. The interception, late throw off his back foot was kind of ugly. Had a couple of plays in the pocket where either didn't see it clean or just fumbled. And I kind of felt for him. Give us an idea of like actual prep that you get as a third quarterback all season. I mean, I just, like, to me, it looked a little bit like deer in headlights for a guy who's been in the league for a long time, which is understandable because I just can't imagine he's done a whole lot this year to get ready for this moment.
Yeah. And so when you're that third guy, like, you're doing the practice squad and you're helping
like the, basically the scout team.
Yeah, you're doing the scout team. Like, you run the quarterback, you run the cards, you get the guys.
Running, you're Hurts this week.
Yeah, you're Hurts. You're making that thing go. You're like running their plays. Are you studying your playbook? Absolutely. You probably got like, in the better quarterback rooms I've been a part of, the starter would say, hey, this is the project I want you to work on. I want you to work on their short yardage stuff. Like, make sure we see the coverages. You got third down. We got red zone. And they would kind of internally do their own evaluation. So he probably did some of that. So he knows what they're doing. But again, it's a different ball of wax, man, like coming off of a whole season. The last pass he threw was a year ago on Christmas. So he has not thrown a football in an NFL game for a calendar year. So it's hard. I don't care how well you study. Like, Matt Schaub was a guy that I played with in Atlanta who was one of the most fastidious, diligent studiers of football that I've ever been around. He's like a 15, 16-year vet. When he got in, it was always a little bit shaky because he didn't play that much, right?
Yeah.
And so I think people, to put him in that situation versus this defense, and we talk, about Minnesota and how well they play their match coverage off that zero look. This is the team. Vic Fangio is the guy that is kind of spearheaded or innovated the match coverage, and they run it about as conventionally, about as well as anybody in the NFL. So when you get out here and it's like, Josh Johnson, go let this thing rip. This is one of the more difficult coverage groups in the NFL to deal with. And then they have a very dynamic, young stable of pass rushers. So this was a tough ask. And again, I do not envy him. And I have a lot of sympathy for him because, again, the prep was probably not there. And I also think, like, this is in games to come into. it's got to be like this team and then like Minnesota in terms of difficulty playing, and Seattle obviously too.
And that's the context of why it looked ugly, which is what happened. So then I ask you this, and we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, but in a world where Mariota can't go, because I think people forget Thursday is when you play on Christmas Day against the Cowboys, so it's a very short week. They suffered injuries at the end of this game on the line. Brandon Coleman was checked, came off the field with, I think, an ankle. Cosme had a concussion, that they checked him for. And Mariota was a concussion check and then a throwing hand. If he can't go, do you just run Johnson out there as a vet? Or everyone would say, what's the other option? I mean, is there any reason that you'd want to just get a look at Sam Hartman at the end of this season?
Probably not. And what I'd say is because it's, to me, I'm hoping that Josh Johnson with a week of practice is going to be better.
Or a few days anyway.
Because I guess it's a short week, right? I think
he's not going to get much.
He gives you the best shot, I think. And again, I like Sam Hartman. I think he had a tough preseason because of the shoulder surgery he had this offseason. But I don't want to put that young man in a position where he's going to be going up against an NFL defense that's probably going to blitz the heck out of you and probably really just put the screws to you in a way. Like, Josh Johnson's seen it. He's got some file on it. Like, give him that opportunity. He's deserved it being the third guy all year. That's how I would approach it. Maybe they feel differently, but that's how I'd mentally approach it. And again, like, maybe he looks differently with just 5 days of practice reps, which would be great.
And it is possible too, Mariota is able to start. We don't have an update yet. Quinn was pretty vague with kind of updates after the game. Doesn't have a lot of information. There was one really nice play down the field to McLaurin on a go ball where they got look like either a double move or a little stutter move, and they threw the ball over the top.
It's the patented Terry, like, inside stem to get you to stem inside vertical route. Like, he does that probably better than anybody.
You on his back, and then you're not right. He's just making a contested catch. That was kind of what they got them on. That was not on Quinion Mitchell, who made a great play later in the game. He's so good, by the way. I mean, this secondary is hard to throw the ball against.
It's really hard to throw the ball against. You're talking about, Cooper DeJean, how well he's playing.
Interception in the game.
Mitchell. Again, their linebackers, Zach Bond specifically, is excellent in coverage. And I just think, like, one of the things I will say to Cliff's credit is early on, they had a very clear plan to say, hey, we're going to win our one-on-one on the perimeter. So Terry catches the hitch very early in the game. He catches the go. And then I think they found ways of kind of finding those deep crossing routes. And you're to the single receiver side. Traditional quarters, the safety would just kind of stay on the hash. They buzz to the three receiver side. So when you get that dig to our guy Traylon Burks, you're running Terry vertically through there. You carry that zone, you stretch it out. You force Bond to have to cover a lot of grass, and you're able to deliver a nice ball to Burks. So I do think there was some understanding of what they were going to do and how to break it. The one thing that you have to do a really good job of in these situations to break this kind of coverage is you have to pass protect at a high level, which again was something that I wish maybe would have gone a little bit better. I didn't think it was bad, but to win this football game, 4 quarters of excellent pass protection is something that they would have needed to do.
You mentioned Burks. If you're looking in the final few weeks for potential building blocks to flash,
I mean, he's at the top of the list.
You got that again, right? The catch he made in the middle of the field, that hands catch, was high difficulty.
The one that got called back was excellent too, where he jumped over those guys.
That was awesome. And then, the PI at the end of the game, which is man coverage, and he's big and physical, fighting through a DB. He's a problem, I think, with his size when you can get him down the field on people. And they've now, late this season, 3 or 4 times just done that, where it seems like Cliff says, let's throw it up to him and see what happens.
And I think you see a guy, and again, like this, we talked about this before with him, but like you see a guy who's physically what a first-round draft pick should look like.
Yeah,
he's big, he's long, he's athletic, and he's hyper competitive, man. Everyone talks about
his 40 time is. He can run a little bit.
I think it's a 4.5, but he definitely plays faster than that.
Yeah.
That kind of that long stride, eats up grass in a nice way. And I think you look at him and you say to yourself, like, he's definitely someone you could build around, and maybe the most exciting offensive piece that moving into 2026. But the thing that gets me most excited about him, Grant, is the way he's been blocking. Because it's so easy for receivers who have been out of football to be like, oh, I don't want to be the insert guy in this, or I'm not going to crack the safety. He is motivated and passionate about that. And I'm just like, man, he wants this so badly. And when you get a guy who's talented with that level of desire, I just think that's someone to be really stoked about.
Let's face it, he's coming off of a serious injury. So that gets you thinking a lot about your career. And also, you're a number 1 pick who fizzles out and was a disappointment for the Titans. And I think you got to start thinking about how many opportunities am I going to get? And we've seen dozens of guys over the years who get a second chance and it works out. I am fascinated to see We've got a lot of content coming up into the offseason, obviously on Take Command, but what the receiver room looks like. Debo's in a contract year. Whether they bring him back or not is very much TBD. I don't think I would pay him what he's going to ask for. So if you have McLaurin, then a new starter opposite him, you're going to get McCaffrey back from injury. You'll have Jalen Lane. Maybe you draft a guy early. Maybe you sign someone, whether, there's a lot of smoke on Brandon Ayuk. Like, it could be a very different looking room. But if you added a couple weapons with McLaurin, you could be in a pretty good place to look a little bit more like last year in the passing game than this year.
Yeah, I think that's something
and I should just say real quick, sorry to cut you off.
No.
And then I would still have Burks in the mix. Like, that's what I mean. I brought that up just to say, if he's still around, like, that's the guy that if he's your fifth guy going into camp or something, and he just forces his way onto the field eventually, like, that's a really healthy situation.
No, I think that's exactly right. And I think one of the things, like, looking back at this offseason, is maybe the most significant loss was like Olamide Zaccheaus, right? Just a guy who's like a consistent vet who can play that kind of third, fourth, fifth receiver spot for you at a high level. So, Jamison Crowder last year, how successful he was. And then, so finding those depth pieces, I think, are going to be really important. Like, does Luke McCaffrey take a step? But I think Treylon Burks, when you see the talent, you say that's a guy that could make some serious waves. So let's say you do go out, the first round picks probably, where they're picking between like 6 and 12 at the moment, probably very defensive line, defensive end heavy there. They probably go that direction. Then in the second round, are you going playmaking receiver? I think so, man. And I think there's some absolute studs in this draft class. There's big guys, there's small guys. So yeah, man, like, absolutely get more dynamic, bring in more playmakers, get more talent infused in the roster, be aggressive in free agency for those kind of bottom fringe kind of receiver guys and that can play ball, and I think there's a lot of guys in the NFL like that, and in the right role, in the right situation, that could be really dangerous for you.
One of the reasons you're going to hear a lot of people, and I'll be doing this, advocating to trade back, is they only have 2 picks in the first 4 rounds. Correct, right now. Yeah. They have rounds 1 and 3. They don't have rounds 2 and 4. We'll have a lot more on the draft coming up early this offseason, and we'll be your home for draft content throughout the early part of the hiatus. Logan Paulsen, Grant Paulsen from Northwest Stadium on Take Command. One issue I had, I guess, if there is one, I wanted to see more Bill in this game. His first carry was really good, 13 yards. He ended up getting doubled up in carries by Chris Rodriguez, who was effective, over 4 a pop. I'm not acting like Rodriguez is 30. He's 26. But I was hoping, coming off last week's game, Ja'Cory would get a little more work. Didn't work out that way. It was basically a 2-to-1 split for Rodriguez.
Yeah, and I think to your point, obviously you want to see kind of the young talent, the young dynamic player get more touches. But I do think Chris was excellent in this football game. He was really, really excellent. Like, there was a couple times where the runs weren't targeted super clean. There's 3 runners in the hole. Jordan Davis is spilling off guys, and you're kind of like, man, like, I don't know, like, but his ability to stay square, make people miss in tight area was on full display. And I think a lot of those carries, that number is inflated because he got some on that last drive where they're kind of pushing the football down the field. And they're probably trying to keep some certain guys healthy. But I do think, like, you have to tip your hat to him the way he ran the football today. It was on the sideline, the physicality, the violence, contact balance was all there for you. And I think, again, for a guy that's had an up and down journey, it's cool to see him get this opportunity and be successful.
I don't know if the Vikings game was a factor or on Cliff's mind at all, but there was a sequence today when they got their first touchdown to go up 10-7.
Yeah.
When they ran the ball on 6 consecutive plays inside the 11-yard line and on 5 consecutive plays from the 4-yard line and in.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
I bring up the Vikings game. Now, for the record, I had 0 problem with the play calling, not to relitigate, but 2nd down and 4th down calls were both good and worked, I thought. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But regardless, people were very upset that they didn't run the ball on 3 straight downs at the goal line in Minnesota. Well, how about 6 straight runs from the 11 and in by Cliff to punch that ball across the goal line?
No, love it. I think, London Fletcher on the broadcast is screaming like, run the football. And they did a great job, man. I will say, being in a stadium like this, which is kind of a mixed crowd, a lot of Philly fans, it gets a little bit loud in the end of that bowl, and it gets a little bit tough to run the football at times. And I think, like, the confidence that they had to execute in those moments, it was great to see.
There were a lot of Eagles fans here, by the way.
A lot of Eagles
What's that like as a player, I wonder? These guys are not dumb. Like, they know what's happening. It's 4-10. It's a holiday week. It's cold. The Eagles are playing for a division title. I think it's only going to be worse on Christmas Day, possibly, because you're making the decision: am I leaving my kid at home with the wife or the husband or whatever and going with my buddy, or am I coming out here? But as a player, I don't know. That just you gotta look up in the stands and see all green. It's gotta just chap your ass.
I mean, I think it's one of those things like I go back to, again, the 2-point conversion. If you want the fans to come, you got to play better ball. That was my thought when I played, right? And so like it was always really frustrating to come in and be playing Dallas like late in the season, and it's like we got to go on the silent count at home. Like that's a tough pill to swallow. But again, like we want the fans to come out and support. We got to put a better product on the field, and like this is the bed you made. You got to lie in it, unfortunately. And that was always my approach. I don't know how other people feel about it, but again, like you have a lot of, as a player, a lot of responsibility and a lot of onus in these moments. So you got to wear it when it's good and celebrate when it's good, and you got to again kind of keep grinding through it when it's not that great.
No, let me go full Obama style here. Let me be clear. Let me be clear. No, I'm no shade at fans. I mean, I got no problem with anybody not coming out. I guess my point is, they get into this fight after that 2-point conversion. Quan Martin gets ejected and is walking off getting sing-songed at his own tunnel, and he's flipping Eagles fans the bird at home.
Man,
and it's like, this ain't the link. You know what I'm saying? That's just a tough spot to be. I mean, this season can end whenever it's ready, by the way.
I'm not saying. And then doing the broadcast and watching Coleman get nicked, watch Mariota get nicked, watch Cosme go down with what to me looked like a concussion. You're just like, this game and this season cannot get over soon enough, right? Because you just want everybody to get out, get into the offseason healthy, and just play like Laramie Tunsil going out last week. It's just, it can be overwhelming at times in these moments where, again, in this game where I was so optimistic coming out of halftime, to have it end in kind of a gross way, and then with all the injuries was just very, very difficult.
Yeah, 10-7 at the half, and then the Eagles outscore Washington 22-0.
Yeah.
Going into the final few minutes of the football game. All right, I'll apologize to you in advance because you're a good sport and a good friend, so you won't ever acknowledge outwardly this is annoying, but it is something I'll continue to harp on, so just buckle up.
Buckle up.
Where
baby.
am I going? How well do you know your co-host?
Under center, are we talking?
No, well, that is another one of my that's a good bit. You can just go through all of my best ofs here. No, whenever they're ready to go under center, like the rest of the league's good offenses do, that would be great. Ben Sinnott was uninvolved again in a December football game where you have nothing to play for, and he's your second-round pick. He got 2 targets. I should have
known this was
yes,
a bet.
You should.
That's my bad.
One was on a throw into the sideline in his vicinity that wasn't a real target, a throwaway. The other was Josh Johnson got him the ball in a 4-yard play.
Yeah.
But this was not 19 dropbacks and 10 completions. What do I got to do, Logan? What do I just get him the ball just a couple of times? I'd love to see
how many completions I have in this game? It wasn't a lot.
No, that's another problem.
So let's get the phone out here.
Yeah, let's work on this. I got you at 12 completions.
Okay.
That's very, very similar to last week.
Yep.
And 25 attempts.
Right. And so I think that's probably more of the issue, in my opinion, is right now this offense. Bear with me for a second.
I'm listening.
They were able to find some explosive plays tonight, which got me juiced up, right?
Definitely.
But I think they're not very good on third down. What was their third down conversion tonight? It was not great. It was so in order to get the running back more touches, to get guys that are down the list in the offense more touches, you need to be better on third down. And I think that's kind of been a little bit of a hiccup for them this entire year, right? You think about the Atlanta game where the offense looks pretty good, but they're 3 of 11, right? There's multiple moments over the course of the season where they just can't possess the football. And again, for a guy like Ben, who's trying to earn touches and earn opportunity, like the offense needs to possess the football more, and you need to have more kind of in the structure of the offense targets. Now, I will say this, like he's in on there on third down.
Yeah.
He's running routes on third down that are something that we would not have seen earlier this season because Zach Ertz was obviously healthy. So I think that is good experience for him. But again, the target getters are going to be the guys that the quarterback and the offense is more confident. So like Terry's going to get the look. Debo's going to get the look. And even right now, Traylon Burks is get the look. And I think that's probably reasonable because I feel like they've earned those opportunities. But again, I understand your frustration. I just think the offense needs to marinate more for these guys down the list to get the touches.
Everything you're saying is correct.
Thank you.
You're a football scientist. I'm not disputing
but there is
an
emotional element here. I'm with you.
There is an emotional element. I will also say you're not a Mighty Ducks guy, I'm guessing.
Oh, first one? Absolutely.
You're a Mighty Ducks
guy.
My
son plays hockey. Yeah.
Okay, what about might be D2 I'm thinking of, where the coach throws the puck against the whiteboard How long does it take to score a goal? 1 second.
Yeah.
Are you familiar?
No, it's D2 though.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's either D. I'm actually thinking it's D3 because I think it's not Gordon Bombay.
So
I think
then
it's when they're at
we're definitely not in that. That's definitely not a file.
Well, I need you to get I need you to get your ass in gear here. Okay. Family program. I apologize. I need you to watch 2 and 3. That's your homework. In addition to the tape. You know what? Let's not do a tape breakdown this week. We're going to do a D2 and D3 breakdown on Tuesday. So come back to that on Take Ducks Command. But the coach basically is like asking, like they're like down by a goal or whatever. He's like, how long does it take to score a goal? How long? And everyone's like, oh, and he's like, 1 second. He like throws the puck against the board. And the bit is like, it took me 1 second to throw the puck. And to that, I would say it takes 1 drop back to throw Benson at the football. 1. All I'm asking for, like, I am ready to slam the gavel now. If he can't, on a day where Zach Ertz isn't playing and Colson Yankoff isn't playing, if he can't get 2 targets, 2 catches, like, I'm just the crazy guy screaming.
I think it's more canary in the coal mine here. Like, it's more of an indication of where the offense is actually at.
I think you're right. I mean, I know you're right.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I get what you're saying.
I get what you're saying.
I feel like I'm the crazy person where I just keep looking at the ocean, like shaking my fist. They're telling me the answer. They're saying, "Hey, Fatso." He's not getting the ball because he's not good enough to get the ball.
Yeah.
And I'm going,
you want to see
second round pick, man.
You want to see it.
I want to see him get 10 targets, 8 catches, 7 yards.
And
that's what I want.
Yeah. And I respect that.
Yeah.
Right. And I respect that. And I think the other element here too to consider is that like they've seen him in practice a little bit more.
This is my point.
Yeah. And so
is it indicative that 2 tight ends are out and he's still not that involved? Maybe we're all screaming about involving him and they know already what we haven't figured out yet.
And I will say over the last 2 weeks, I've seen, again, he's not getting the ball, but I have seen positive elements of Ben's game evolving. So maybe you use this as again, I think about my time in 2011 where I think Fred and Cooley both got hurt and ended up playing the last couple of games of the year. And so for me, my evolution came as like, this is what it takes to block in an NFL football game. But I took that knowledge into the offseason and had a pretty good 2012 season, right? Where I played a lot, had a bunch of catches and, did a great job. So that was my best season of my career. And I think a lot of it came from 2011. So if you look at this element here and say, if he can parlay this into a really productive offseason where he's the guy that is at the focal point of the offense because Zach's hurt, he's kind of getting all these third down touches and builds this brand up and builds this equity with the offense heading into 2026, maybe that's the value of these games at the end of the year.
Okay. Defensively, who do you want to call out here? I thought Jacob Martin was noticeable.
Beast.
Really, really strong game as a pass rusher, had a sack to show for it. Bobby Wagner's all over the place.
Dude, Bobby Wagner, he's the guy I want to talk about because it feels to me like he turned back the clock somehow.
He's playing his butt off.
Like past 2 weeks, he's played excellent. And like the physical, I mean, he had like 10 tackles or something.
He did 10 tackles and a sack.
Like unbelievable. Like watching him rush on Saquon Barkley. He had a couple coverage reps on Saquon Barkley. He had a couple coverage reps on A.J. Brown where I'm like, this is going to go badly. And he just kind of gloves them up and you're like, that's amazing.
I thought last week when he gave up the touchdown to Tracy was one of his better reps, like down the field all season.
Yeah. And so I feel like he's, in a weird way, he's playing. This is the best football I've seen him play as a Commander the last 2 weeks. So I don't know what that does for you, but I think it's really cool when a leader on your team, a guy that is 34 years old, who's a Hall of Famer in a game that doesn't really matter for anybody, is absolutely pouring it out. Like that gives me like chills right now.
Yeah, that gets the juices flowing for your boy.
Yeah, and so like again, 10 tackles, a sack, like coverage is better than I've seen it the past probably 10 weeks. It is cool. It is a cool moment to see a guy like that. You know, like I think about him in the same context as London Fletcher. Like in the games that, like when I was playing, in the games that didn't matter, to see him go out there and just 13 years, never missing a game, like that means something that is more valuable than money, more valuable than views, more valuable than fans. And it's something that, again, like the football purist in me absolutely loves that. So yes, I want to talk about Bobby because I think that's really, really, really cool.
He's just so rarely misses a tackle. It's so when you see him around a guy and not get him on the ground, it's like a record screech.
You're like, oh my gosh, what happened?
Yeah, you're like, how did that happen? There was that one play on the goal line. I think like somebody hit him at the same time he did, and he doesn't go. And you're like, I think that might be the first time in 10 weeks that guy hasn't got someone on the ground. It was another strong performance for him. Overall, I guess final thoughts here. 2 weeks to go, short week for the Cowboys on Christmas, and then They're playing the Eagles again week 18 at the Link.
Yeah, man. I mean, this is just, I think one of the things Dan Quinn did a great job of is kind of making this the tournament setup, right? Tournament within the division, kind of the last 4 games of the season here. And it would have been nice to be a little bit more competitive here. But again, I don't know about you, but I want to beat Dallas. I think they want to beat Dallas. And I guarantee you for the last game of the season, Dan Quinn's going to have these guys motivated to play hard. And that's all I ask is let's just play 2 competitive, tough, commander-style football games then out the season. And I will be happy. I think we will be happy. In a year that was very tough, like that's the best kind of scenario we can hope for. Let's get into the offseason, talking about the draft, free agency, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, this won't hurt them in that regard, by the way. They came into the week in the top 8 in the draft order, and we'll see what kind of help they get now this weekend. You're rooting for the underdogs and the bad teams this weekend to help Washington's draft stock. We are back on Tuesday with a breakdown in detail of this game. And then on Thursday, well, I guess this week will have to be different.
Probably do both. Probably do both on like little review, little preview.
Ooh, I get a little steamed up for that.
Bang that out, yeah.
And then Thursday we'll have a recap after the game, and then we'll do something going into the weekend as well to make sure you get 3 next week. But
love that.
Don't you worry about a thing. We got you covered on Take Command. Logan, I know it was cold on the sideline. You look good, my man. Enjoy your evening. Enjoy your football Sunday.
Thanks, man. You too.
All right. Thanks for checking us out live here on YouTube. You can always watch the show on the 106.7 The Fan and Team 980 channels. Of course, you can listen to us, download, subscribe, rate, review, wherever you get your audio. Leave a comment. Send the pod to a buddy. Make sure we keep growing this thing. Thanks for joining us on Take Command.